Welcome to another episode of the House Huddle Podcast. Here are your hosts, Rob Schwartz and Justin Onayemi, two Bears fans who decided talking into a microphone was better than shouting at their television.
Welcome in, House Huddlers. Huddle up! That's right, it's a Huddle Up episode. Bears win, Bears win.
Bears win. Week 1.
Yeah.
Victory.
Yeah, can't get any better than that, I guess.
Well, I don't know.
All right, well, at least it wasn't worse. So this is episode 87. 87, the big Kellen Davis episode.
Nah.
No, Baby Gronk? No catch and fall?
No. There's two valid people we could do.
Yeah, and I agree with one, and I can't stand the other. So
we'll go Tom Waddle then.
Yeah. If you don't know who the other one is, he thought this is the place where wide receivers go to die.
That's
and
true. Today,
he's kind of right. But
so Tom Waddle episode.
Yeah.
We're gonna break down the Bears' victory in Week 1 against the Titans at home.
Yes.
They trailed 17-0 in the game, and were able to come out across victorious 24-7, which did cover their 4.5 point spread, 3.5,
anywhere between 3.5 and 4.5, depending on when you put money down.
The reason I say that is I want you to talk about our sponsor.
Yeah. So if you followed along with our show, you would know that BetStamp has you covered. If you go to our sign-up page at signupexpert.com/huddle, you will find all of the best sports books in your region. And on there, you will find up the best sign-up offers if you've not signed up with them yet. And you'll also obviously be able to figure out, not everyone has the same odds. So if you go and, try a few different ones, you can figure out which odds you like the most, make your deposit, and then go from there.
You're getting better at these plugs.
Yeah, I don't call it the wrong name anymore, so that's good.
Definitely check it out. Lots of good offers for you all and support of our show.
Yeah.
One other way to support the show: like, subscribe, comment.
We love it all.
We love it all. Subscribers, we're about 100 away from our jersey giveaway. Any Bear of your choice, jersey for you.
Yeah.
So
we actually were 100 away, and then someone unsubscribed.
Oh man!
I guess maybe it was their grandma.
Packer fan, or
maybe.
All right. So how do you want to do it, man?
I mean, okay. I have a title for this that I'm gonna kind of not leak at the moment, but it's maybe a little deceiving. So I don't know. I don't want to start there. I think the obvious way to start is Caleb Williams.
I'd rather just start globally.
Okay.
Well, I'll start with like a global thing, and I'll toss it to you and start with Caleb Williams.
All right, go ahead.
Here's the thing. A lot of parts of the game didn't look so great, but the big takeaway for me was this was a game you certainly could have won, but you easily could have lost.
Yes.
And they did everything they needed to do to come across victorious. That's
say,
very different than in the past, where games you should have won, could have won, you find ways to lose.
We did not have notes, but perfectly put me into that lane there. I was just about to say, Tremaine Edmonds' interview after the game spoke to the fact, look, we know what it's like to be on the opposite side of these types of wins.
Yeah.
So,
and it also makes you imagine, okay, let's say things start to look a little crisper, look a little cleaner. Where could this go? I had some notes prior to the game, and I won't go through all of them now, but I just want to say one was I wanted to have my eye on, does this defense look like a top 10? Does it look like a top 5? And what that would look like, getting ahead of the chains, 3 and outs, pressure, takeaways, check. They basically had one bad drive.
One bad drive.
And the second touchdown, I have some issues with, but we'll get to that later.
Okay.
So when we say they pulled out a win in a game they weren't so clean, weren't so effective, I guess you could also look at Caleb Williams' line and look there. And so maybe that's where you're going to start, but no turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key, right? I mean, typically at the beginning of the season, especially for a team that hasn't been put together before, right? There's a lot of new parts in this thing.
On the offensive side.
Right? You're seeing an offensive coordinator who wasn't here last year. You're seeing a brand new quarterback. You're seeing 2 new wide receivers, another secondary tight end. The offensive line isn't even the same, right? So there's a lot of moving parts that are changing. And I think we all got hyped up and excited by that big differential that we saw in the preseason where they were scoring 30 plus points every week, right? That clearly did not translate into this game, especially from an offensive perspective, but that's to be expected, right? Like offenses take longer. I shouldn't say that. Whatever side of the ball you're not gelling and you're completely new is going to take longer than the side that's been together now for 3 years for the most part.
The key players.
Yes, the key players. They have a few obviously different players there, but the key players have been together at least 2 years, some as far as 3. We saw it in the very first drive. Like the defensive line came out to play, right? Like again, outside of one drive where like they just got gashed. And they corrected it. And we saw the linebackers play well. TJ Edwards. I mean, that guy had what?
UFFL
15?
beast. Yeah. IDP beast.
Yes.
Actually, I got a comment about him. I'm going to hold off on and say it later.
Okay, but I think he had 15 tackles.
Yeah.
Right?
Fumble recovery.
I mean, the guy was just everywhere. Tremaine Edmonds played better this game than he did to start the season last year. You had 2 interceptions. The new guy, Darrell Taylor, he's got 2 sacks already on the year.
Strip sacked. So here's the thing. Another thing I was looking at ahead of the game was how will the D-line play outside of Sweat. Billings was all over the place.
Oh, I love Billings.
Dexter made some great plays and flashes.
Yeah.
Darrell Taylor, like you said, coming off the other end was, wearing
Dexter
52. Wearing 52.
Yeah, it was a little, I was like, oh, that threw me off a little bit when I first saw it.
But again, looking bigger picture, if that question mark is somewhat coming out okay, and DeMarcus Walker, I want to say.
Oh, DeMarcus Walker played well on the inside.
Played a real game, inside and when he was on end.
Yes.
So if that unit can be average even to slightly above, now you are talking about a defense that can keep you in games when you're struggling in other areas.
Yeah.
We saw good plays out of the special teams.
Great plays.
In coverage and in return. And we'll talk about that one for sure. I don't think Rob would let that one go. No one should. That was a terrible play, and it mattered a lot.
Yeah.
But all of that in a victory. It's like a coach's dream. You win the game, but there's plenty to talk about.
Yes, 100%.
In terms of ways to improve.
Plenty to talk about. I mean, I don't know. Could you improve on the defense? I mean, that was an elite performance, in my opinion. I know they let up 17 points, but one of those came off of a bad turnover.
Short field.
Right, very short field. I mean, a drive and a half, in my opinion. They had a couple times where I thought they'd be able to get off the field, and they weren't able to.
They gave up some third down conversions to
a fourth.
Less than stellar quarterback.
Yeah.
But by the end of the game, they had him looking scared and terrible.
Yeah, exactly. The second half completely changed, especially from a defensive standpoint.
I was just jotting down at the end of the game key players, and out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players I listed, 5 are on the defense.
Yeah.
And the only one I listed that wasn't on the defense was Carter as a special teamer.
Yes.
I thought he played well. I had my doubts, so I got.
We thought we had a punt return issue, but man, did he look good.
Well, and even kick return. This is the time to win roster and mentality.
Yes.
Velus goes out there because they wanted him to be good at this.
Oh, we're going
to muffs the very first kickoff, and then they said, get your butt onto the bench. You are not in that anymore. They found ways to get his ball in his hands again.
Did. And he did okay.
Man, he really looked that one into his hands. But it looks like the kick return is like, no, you can't do that.
No, all you can do is...
Muffing it's bad enough. You didn't have to kick it 20 yards to the other team.
Okay, so literally as this happened, I'm yelling at my television, okay? Like, look, the thing is accurate. I say we don't want to yell at the television, but I was yelling at the television. And my kids were like, oh, what's wrong? And like literally before this game started, my son, who's 12, came up to me. He's like, Dad, is Velus Jones any good? And I was like, oh my gosh, why are you asking me this? He's like, oh, I found I have his rookie card. And I was like, yeah, you can probably just, throw that in the garbage. It's not really worth anything. And I was like, no, if just keep it. Just keep it in your pile, whatever. It's not a big deal. And I was like, maybe he'll surprise us this year. I was like, they did change him. He's now a running back. He's like, oh, he's a running back? I was like, yeah. He's like, what did he used to be? I was like, a wide receiver. I was like, but mostly all he did was return kicks because he couldn't handle punts because he kept fumbling it. And sure enough, now he fumbles kickoffs. And I don't know if it's the new rule, like the way that they're kicking it. It's like higher, so maybe it's more like a punt, and he just doesn't know how to field that. But literally, I told my kids, my boys watched the whole game with me today. It's the first time ever, 10 and 12. watched the whole game. And I literally said, look, if I was in charge of the Chicago Bears, if I was Ryan Poles, I would be walking my butt down from my top little booth, down to the sideline. I would walk up to Velus Jones and I'd say, why don't you just head to the locker room, pack up your things. You're not going on the bus home. You are now off this team. Because that's how fucking pissed off I am with this guy. I'm so tired of it. We give him a chance. Oh, I'm not going to take anything less than a 4th round pick. And look, I love Ryan Poles, but I said this before. I said this might bite him in the ass. You could have got something for a guy who clearly is not meant to be a football player anymore. I'm sorry. College, fantastic. But even then, he had issues then too. Get him out of here. I'm done with it. He cost them 3 points. Could have been more. Get him out of here. He's done. I'm not playing him one more time. I was pissed when I saw him in the backfield again. I was pissed.
He has some attributes that are uncoachable.
100%.
You have to find the way that he can be effective, but it's not. We know it's not punt returning, and now it's looking like it might not be kick returning.
He probably averaged 6 yards a carry today, if I'm being honest.
He looked fine when he was in those positions, and when they went to Wildcat at one point in the game, Swift was in the quarterback position, Williams out to the side, so you could motion him over and give him a pitch, and Velus was on the field.
Yeah.
So as a defense, that is something you have to be worried about / wondering about.
Yeah.
Now, is that worth a spot on the 53 to just be a gadget player here and there?
Who
knows? But DeAndre Carter was running way too many routes for my liking. But part of that's because Keenan Allen
got banged up.
That was another thing I wanted to look at ahead of the game was what would Keenan Allen's impact be, his production and his health?
Yeah.
Dropped a ball in the end zone. Yeah. Made a few other catches that were fine.
Yeah, those quick outs. I mean, he was the guy.
But came up a little banged up on a deep route, and overall, I wasn't too impressed by that.
And he came back out. Like, we saw him later in the game, and he was back out there. But Tyler Scott was inactive today, so that was a big reason why we saw a lot more of DeAndre Carter. I was kind of surprised to see that he was inactive, but yeah, I don't know. All around, like, I'm done with Velus Jones, and I don't even care if he scores a touchdown. I don't care if he scores 3 touchdowns next week. I'm still done with him.
That's a bad take, but if he scores 3 touchdowns next week, that's pretty impressive, and we're back on the train. But yeah, concerns. I put Velus as one of my concerns. Yeah. So my quick Edwards thing. Adam Amin was on the call, a local product on their 5th probably best national group or whatever. Yeah, Bears still don't have that respect yet.
I will say Adam Amin is a Bear Goggles On fan.
Is he?
Yeah, he actually liked one of our or is following one of our writers and made comments about the blog site, specifically his tweets, but also about the blogs.
So Adam Amin, shout out. He's one of the Bulls regular broadcasters. Yeah. But I thought of what Stacey King would have said. There's 10 TJ Edwards out there. Look at this man. He's all over the place, baby. Woo! He was making tackles everywhere.
I wish someone had like a spin, because my favorite line from him is, it's like a washing machine. Look at that spin cycle. We did see a hurdle, but not
a lot of good ones.
We did see a hurdle. I bet he'd give a good one for that.
That was pretty good. I would like to see him cross over there. So
yeah.
But rough start to the game in terms of the scoreboard. A muff when the time came didn't help things. But even at points where things were pretty down, I turned to my son at one point and just said, the Bears are better than the Titans. Like, you have to show that at some point. They left a lot of plays out on the field, a lot of points out on the field. I mean, at the beginning of the game, they were getting good field position and squandering it.
Yeah.
And some of that I did think was on Caleb. Some of it was just bad execution across the board. There still were drops. Some O-line issues.
Some? How about Coleman Shelton?
Shelton.
Did he forget how to play football today?
Darnell Wright on one. He goes to pull and he gets in Swift's corner. Swift had some good runs at the beginning of the game.
It was either a corner or safety.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a linebacker or a defensive lineman, and he just whiffs. You can't do that as a top 10 pick.
And all that in a victory.
I'm still angry. I'm a catastrophist, so my wife is listening to me just rant as this game is going on, and she knows. So I also have a rant about Hulu. According to Justin, I should be able to fast forward through my commercials, but I was not able to fast forward through my commercials. They would stop and say, this is where it'll pick up when you get back. And then I have to watch for 2 minutes and 15 seconds every single time. Then it would put me where I wanted to be. Over and over and over again. So I couldn't get caught up because I was 20 to 30 minutes behind schedule. But my wife, who doesn't really care to watch football, is following along on her phone, things that were happening, like Simone Biles' husband scoring a touchdown, right? So those things are the things that pop up on her phone, is knowing that the Bears are coming back, knowing that they won before they actually won on my television. And here I am just saying that we need to move on. I need to find, why am I teaching my kids again to be Bears fans?
Oh, you were going that route?
Oh,
I did not feel
my
that
ticket
way.
prices are probably going whoop down.
I felt pretty confident throughout that they were better and would show it. And that's a good experience. Now,
glad you
roll this out into Houston on Sunday Night Football, it's going to look bad.
Yeah.
But I see it differently. Like, it's an opportunity to bounce back and actually put the whole thing together.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking forward to it. I think they could really, really show themselves at what they could be. I mean, because there were little things, too. There was one where Keenan Allen looked like he was running a slant, and he stops, and Williams still leads him.
Yeah.
That you have to just connect on these.
Yeah. I mean, even in the beginning, he ran that, like, sluggo route, was wide open, and Caleb Williams just overthrew him. I know Keenan's not as fast as some of the other guys that he has, but, I mean, that was just a complete overthrow. The overthrow that you mentioned that he got hurt on, I mean, that was at least closer. I don't think
Caleb dropped a snap. At first I thought, bad snap, here we go again.
Yeah, no,
it was a great snap.
He just dropped
it on a third down.
But I do have an issue.
Get nervous.
But I do have an issue. I don't know. I do have an issue, though, with that route and they mentioned it in the broadcast.
Two guys in the same spot.
I was talking about how we weren't seeing that in the preseason, and here it happened, I think, twice in the game I saw it. That one was one of them.
But was that a broken play situation? Like,
I mean, it wasn't supposed to go.
The timing. He drops the snap and rolled out.
It was supposed to go to the left, a quick out for 2-3 yards to DJ Moore just to get the first down. That's all it was. I have no idea what they were supposed to do, but you think they'd have to run a route, and you don't think they'd want to be in the same area. I don't know.
I think they both went out right. Well, I don't know.
I'll be looking at the all 22 because I want to see what it looks like from up top.
But defense kept them in it. Defense clamped down when they needed to. Oh, I got to give a major shout out to a person.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
You do?
I for sure as hell hope I know where you're going.
Are we going to take a break? Or are we going to be?
Yes, let's take a break and you come back and find out who we're talking about.
I don't think we're talking about the same person.
I think we're going to be.
All right.
Enjoy. If I can find my cursor, enjoy these ads.
And we are back. Hallis Huddle, episode 87. Tommy Waddle. Let's go. So before the break, yeah, that was before they really knew what to do with concussions. Right. I would say. Well, they probably knew.
They just didn't care. I don't know if they still do.
Well, that I can go on a rant. It would be a Justin's rant if we go that route. So before the break, I said I had a special shout out.
I thought for sure I knew who it was. I thought for sure I knew it was.
So
I still don't know who it is for you.
You still don't know.
But you know I'm not on the race.
So you mentioned your little Hulu follies, and normally you're not even in town week 1.
That's right.
You just bail on all of us. You bail on the city of Chicago.
It does look like I was on vacation. I was not. I got burnt during soccer games.
So when you bail, I know you're not watching the game, or you probably catch it later. Mm-hmm. Luckily, Bob Weiss has been able to step in and host on those occasions. But my shout out actually goes to Bob Weiss. Because you weren't live, I couldn't text you during the game. So I was texting with Bob. Now, one particular play, and Bob, I'm shouting you out. We love you here on the Hallis Huddle, but I still disagree with you. And I watched the replay. So there was a play where Levis had nowhere to go. I think it was Billings again, bringing some pressure. Levis is going down to the ground, well within the pocket, 2 inches from the ground, and just tries to flick it out to a receiver.
Yes,
he knew there was a receiver there.
Correct.
To me, it was the essence of intentional grounding. Now, one of the ways Bob talked me down was he said, if Caleb Williams did that, I'd be mad if they called it on him. I said, fine, fair. But the thing he followed up with next was, regardless of the fact that it wasn't intentional grounding, just the fact that Levis would think to do something that stupid, I think he might do something stupid later in the game. Nice. And sure enough, that pick six by Stevenson was almost identical.
Yeah.
He's going down, no reason, trying to do some kind of Brett Favre / Aaron Rodgers backflip or something. It was terrible. It cost them the game ultimately.
Yes.
And although Levis is in year 2, you might look at Williams as a rookie and say, oh, struggles of being a rookie. Levis is pretty new too. This Bears defense is going to give trouble to young quarterbacks. And that was a huge play in the game, obviously.
Yeah.
But big shout out to Bob because he called it like 45 minutes before it happened. But when that non-intentional grounding was not called, maybe rightfully so, he said that was a sign of what could come later and nailed it. So
all right,
big shout out to Bob Weiss.
Yeah, Bob, you definitely spoke that into existence, and we're here now celebrating a win instead of a loss thanks to you.
That's right. So, this all goes to Bob Weiss.
Yes.
Not the defensive coordinator.
No.
Not Eberflus.
No. Not
TJ Edwards. There's 10 of him out there, baby.
Woo! None of them. Not even 9 of them. Just Bob Weiss.
So when I said I have somebody to shout out, though.
Yeah, I thought for sure you were going to tell me Daniel Hardy.
Why?
Because I fought for him to not be on our 53.
I put him on there.
And you put him on there. And we ended up
the Bears.
And we ended up not including him. We had a caveat on he would have been there for if situation, right? And then he does get left on. They kept more defensive ends than I anticipated. Dominique Robinson was the one who was inactive for the game, which was a little surprising too, based off of the comments. Not to me either, in the sense that I also agree Daniel Hardy played better in the preseason. But he's also a big reason why we're talking about a Bears victory, right?
Yeah.
Not the Bob Weiss.
He's like a little below Bob Weiss. He's a little bit below Bob Weiss on the reasons the Bears won today.
Yes, but for him to make that play on special teams,
he blocked the punt. Now the coverage of the game was pretty crappy. With I had to go back so many times to figure out who did it. They finally said, but
it wasn't like that for me as I'm fast forwarding through everything as much as I could. So by the time I probably I was trying to get through punts and I was trying to get through kicks because typically nothing happens of note. Mm-hmm. And good thing I can
stuck around
at least
for that one.
Go backwards.
So huge play in the game. I want to shout out. I'm being somewhat facetious here, but I put what? You want to talk about Rome Odunze's first career catch? Do you know which one it was?
Yes. I mean, okay. He high pointed that ball.
He did, man. He jumped early and just hung him
beautifully. That is things to expect and look forward to in the future.
With awareness. I will give him that.
Yes.
Caleb Williams, by the way, what do you have? 3-4 batted balls down? I know he's a little bit on the shorter side, so I'm not trying to say this is something that's going to be a trend.
No, I think it actually just speaks to the fact that the Titans' defensive line is legit.
From the interior, especially.
Legit.
Right in his face.
Yes. I mean, you got Tavondre Sweat does not look like a rookie out there. And you got Justin Simmons, who's just...
Yeah, but Justin Simmons is a little B, if you ask me. At the very end of the game, starts trying to... Your team played like horse poop.
Yeah.
And now you're going to get all hyped and try to start something when Bears are in victory formation?
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Get down. He was the one talking 3 months ago about Caleb Williams painting nails.
Yeah, which he did paint his nails for the game.
Good for him.
Yep. Yeah, and Caleb did chirp a little bit towards the end of the game too, rightfully so.
Smart.
Granted, it might not have been him who did anything, but
it's a team effort. I think this is what I was saying before. When we were on the Bumcast, I said this is a team. Yes. They got offense, they got defense, they got special teams. And offense is down today. Special teams and defense pick them up. And there will be games where the offense picks up the other unit.
I love Justin Fields, but I think he would have tried to do too much. And the chances of him getting a turnover were a lot more likely than what we saw from Caleb.
Well, somebody might have pulled Caleb Williams over early and told him that, though. Because I thought towards the beginning of the game, Caleb was trying to do a little bit of hero ball.
The Rome Odunze catch. I mean, that was not a good idea to throw that ball.
Yeah. I'm talking about even on some of the, weird rollouts and then throwing it, taking hits. Dude, just throw it out of bounds.
Yeah.
The sack was for 19 yards.
The sack one was for sure. You just had to get rid of that. There was no way you were going to recover when you literally had a guy in your face.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you spun, and then you see that other guy there, and he did try to get rid of it at that point, and then didn't. But like,
you got to.
You have
Look
to.
what even across Levis did. Now did it badly, and we talked about it just now. But that play, that sack was after he missed Keenan Allen down the sideline. So you should have had 7.
Yeah.
Then you take a sack for 19. You're out of field goal range. So you should have had 7. You should have had 3. You ended up with 0.
Yeah.
In a victory.
Yes.
But that's the thing. If you lose games, these are plays you don't ever get back.
What I do like, and I hope that it's not just quarterback speak, he was asked how the speed of the game felt. And he did say that he felt that it was what he expected. And it wasn't an issue with not being able to read the defense. It wasn't an issue with not making the right throws. It was more just an issue of he was a little off at times, right? Like some of the routes that were running across the middle, he was throwing behind guys at times. Mm-hmm. He had a couple that he threw into the dirt by people's feet. But to be honest, like, again, this goes back to the Titans defensive front. He was getting pressured a lot.
Yes, he was.
Especially from that interior. Nate Davis looked meh. Coleman Shelton looked bad most of the game.
Went up against a tough interior.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, he's going up against the guy who's possibly, I mean, that defensive front is possibly one of the best in the NFL, right? That defensive interior front. Is those two together probably one of the best in the NFL, especially now that Aaron Donald's not in the league. So we'll see how he rebounds against Houston, right? Not quite as, prevalent of an interior push. He's got to do something because he looked decent in the preseason. I mean, I was like on board with him being the center from, going forward, but I don't want to now bounce back to Ryan Bates. Like, unless we absolutely have to.
Right.
So.
Well, I think there's a lot to clean up on offense. If the defense can just consistently play how they were playing, that's a sign of good things to come. Yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay. I was all about Shane Waldron in the preseason. Now, I do think he wasn't giving a lot of completely vanilla looks in the preseason, which was enticing, where a lot of defenses were playing vanilla. But he went away from a lot of the stuff that they were doing in the beginning. You didn't see very many rollouts for Caleb Williams, which is honestly his bread and butter. And maybe there were concerns about the defensive front. But in my opinion, if you're going to move the pocket around, that's going to make it more difficult for them.
I felt they did a decent amount.
More in the second half.
And some of it Tennessee sniffed out right away.
Again, more in the second half. They started doing more of the things that I was complaining about in our text thread. The outside zone runs, they weren't doing that in the beginning. You basically saw DeAndre Swift and a couple times Khalil Herbert try to run through the two guys that are probably the best defensive players on their team.
Not much Khalil Herbert.
No, but he had his opportunities and didn't do anything with them either.
How many carries do you think he had?
2?
2.
Yeah. Again, he went nowhere.
That's not much. I'm just saying.
He went nowhere.
Even early, they had Velus in.
Yes. Velus had a carry before Khalil, I believe.
I think so.
But again, we were watching them run the outside zone in preseason. They weren't doing that. What are the other things that I was complaining about?
It's a long list, I bet.
Well, I mean, just specifically about, very few rollouts in the beginning. Again, it did happen more towards the end of the game, but I felt like they went away from it they didn't go to it soon enough. And then when you're playing against a defensive line like this, there were at times we were seeing quick throws, and maybe part of it, and I guess I shouldn't complain too much about this, and I'm probably just ranting more than I am being logical now that I'm thinking about it, because a lot of the drives were killed for stupid shit. Like, you're going backwards because of penalties. Your running backs aren't gaining any yards. They're getting stuffed. They're gaining like 1 or 2, right? So you're getting those second and longs. But in the beginning of the game, I didn't feel like you were doing a lot of like your quick throws. You had a couple right towards the end where you're throwing it to the left hash, those quick outs to Keenan Allen. Those were working. You had a slant to DJ Moore. Perfect. Working. Like, those things were working, but then it's like they went away from it And again, maybe it was the way that the drives were going, and I'm just not like remembering them correctly enough. But it was very frustrating where I'm just like, why are we doing 5 to 7 step drops and getting pummeled or having to run around like a crazy person versus just 3-step drops and getting rid of the ball?
I'm glad you said quick outs and slants, because at first what I thought you were saying was like we're back in the Shoop era, like where the Bears are just throwing screen after screen after screen. Like I've seen too much of that as a Bears fan over the years.
Yes.
But even when they were running some of these slants and things, like timing wasn't there, just communication on the field wasn't there. So,
but I think
all in all, I think there's a lot they need to clean up.
Yeah.
On offense in particular. So I'm not going to go too far in saying like Shane Waldron hasn't done enough, or in a sense. I don't know if that's where you were going, but
no. I'm not like,
back to what you said at the very beginning of the show. They're going to need time to come together.
Yes. I'm not like one of those people that are out there already. I've seen like, I'm done with Shane Waldron. Like, let's move on. No, he's way better than Luke Getsy. Let's put that out there right now. My thing is, and I want to wrap this up here, but my thing is like, we should have expected the defense to carry this team in the beginning, and that's exactly what happened. And our hope now is we have what looks on paper to be a weaker schedule at the front of the year. This will hopefully give Caleb Williams enough time, the offense enough time to start to gel, so that by the time we get to the middle of the season, they actually look like a legit offense. Something we were hoping was going to start sooner than I think should have been expected. And the hope is that they are going to do well enough, because you said top 10, top 5. I'm telling you right now, this defense looks like a top 5 defense. I am glad I picked them up in every single fantasy league that I could from a defensive special team standpoint. They put up 26 points for me this week.
If the defense
I also played Caleb Williams
like they played today.
My fantasy team was the Bears, by the way, in one of my leagues, because I played the Bears defense, which got me 26, and I played Caleb Williams, who only got me 6. Like, if you think about that as a reverse, they basically were the Bears today.
I'm just looking through my notes, making sure we talked about everything. Yeah, big picture. Got one more thing here. Bears 1-0. Packers 0-1. Love's going to be out, it looks like, at least 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't like to hype injuries, but they are a part of the game. Looking like you're sitting in pretty good position. Now, Vikings look good. They went up against the Giants, who look quite bad. And as we're recording this, I think the Lions are currently leading their game.
Well, as I saw,
I actually put something on them, so I'm okay with that. Plus, it would help us in fantasy. But
I think they were 10-3 the last I saw.
Winning ugly is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a sign that you have a team that has talent and that could go places, as opposed to very badly losing ugly, which had become something we've become quite used to over the 2 years of Matt Eberflus regime.
Well, and Eberflus said this in his little, post-game speech, rah-rah speech to the team was, hey, we are different this year than we were in the past, because at halftime, it wasn't guys sitting in here complaining. The last 2 years, there was a lot of complaints about things like, this isn't going our way, or this isn't going our way. We complaining. The guys in the locker room today were, guys, we got this. There's no reason we should be losing. We're better than this team. We are going to win. Those words obviously became more than words because they came out and played that way. And again, we just need to hope that the offense will eventually pick up.
Eventually is week 2. I'm calling it. And Caleb Williams is going to showcase on Sunday Night Football. It's going to look a lot better.
And look, it's time to move on from Velus Jones. It is not time to move on from Caleb Williams or Shane Waldron, right? And I think Caleb Williams showed enough positives that we can build off of it. And that's all you can expect right now.
I like it. They're playing some young quarterbacks at the beginning of the season, but
he made history.
And Anthony Richardson are going to be quite tough to test on this defense.
Yes, but he also made history.
The record coming in.
Okay, so over the last, 12 years? Since 2002,
that's 20 years.
20 years.
22 years.
22 years,
Dude,
sorry.
When you get old, you can't just throw years off like, that was 10 years ago? 2002?
Okay, that was 8. That was 10 years off. Yeah. Okay, so 22 years when a quarterback was taken first overall over the last 22 years, their record was 0-14-1.
One tie.
One tie. Caleb Williams.
In first game. Oh.
Their first game to play as being drafted.
Even if that was
year.
not in week 1?
Correct.
Okay.
For example, Patrick Mahomes. He lost his game.
But he wasn't a number 1 pick.
No. Oh, you're right. He wasn't. Give me a better example. Andrew Luck was the last one to do it.
But you said, oh.
Oh, wait, no. He didn't win, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Who got the tie, I wonder?
I don't know who got the tie. I'll have to look that up. However, they were 0-14-1. There are 4 quarterbacks in the modern era of the NFL who have won their first game, being the first pick in the draft. That's Pluckett, Carr, which I'm assuming is David Carr, which is a little shocking to me.
He was the one in 2002. No. Okay, sorry. He might have been 2002.
John Elway, and now Caleb Williams. Now, out of those 4, I'm just going to hope that he's mostly like John Elway. But it's good.
A lot of times, if you're number 1 overall, you're going to a crap team.
Exactly.
This is not a crap team.
Exactly.
They bailed him out today.
I wrote about
games he bails others out.
I wrote about it prior to the game and literally talked about how this is not a Caleb. If Caleb Williams wins this game, it's not necessarily because it's Caleb Williams. It's because his team is so much better than what a first overall pick would walk into.
Yeah.
Right.
True. We saw it unfold today. Yeah. So Bears 1-0. Love it.
Yeah. Bear down. You got anything else?
Bear down.
Bear down.
Claws up.
Claws up.